Paul is not here. Welcome to the Town of Avon Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. If you are interested in having a copy of the agenda or the staff reports, they are available on the tables to the right of the audience. This meeting is being recorded for the public record. Because of this, we request that personal conversations are kept to a minimum and all cell phones are set to vibrate with any phone calls taken outside of the chambers. If you are interested in commenting during any public hearing, please sign up on the sheets located on the tables to the right of the audience. When your name is called, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Please address your comments to the board and not to staff or the appellant. Your comments should relate directly to the case at hand. We do understand that there may be several persons who wish to speak. The chair may therefore impose a time limit for each person. Federal law requires that the town make available to all attendees a Title VI public involvement survey. These surveys are on the table to the right of the audience. Members of the public who wish to complete the survey may do so and place them in the designated area. If because of a disability, any person in attendance needs assistance or accommodation to fully participate in this meeting, please notify staff. Thank you for your assistance in facilitating a respectful, fair, and timely meeting. Again, welcome to our meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Paul Guckenberger. Ann Inman. Present. Catherine Ransberg. Here. Marcy Tashler.
Here.
Marcus Turner.
Here. Next item on the agenda are the minutes. Did anyone have any questions or concerns, comments?
So we had no minutes
No
this
minutes.
month. We're in a transitional period right now. You know, we're onboarding Justin here, so we'll have 2 minutes next month to make up for it. So we're
Very good. So we'll nix the minutes and we'll get right on to it. Next item is request for continuances and or agenda modifications. Ian?
Yep, we have 2 requests for continuances. There we go. We have VAR 2303 Lamar Billboard Illumination. That's a request for approval of a variance of development standards to allow for illuminated signage, a billboard within 600 feet of a residential district. And that's accompanied with VARU 2304 Lamar Digital Billboard Conversion. That's a request for approval of a variance of use. And that's to allow that conversion of that existing billboard into a digital billboard within Tier 1 of the 36 overlay. They are here requesting a continuance to the April BZA meeting to allow, as I understand it, to allow their legal counsel to attend the meeting. I don't think that they were able to make this meeting. So they're asking for this continuance so their legal counsel can be there. You did grant them a continuance by right at the last meeting. So this is up to you. They are here and prepared, as I understand, to go through with the petition if necessary, but they are asking for the continuance.
Okay. Discussion?
Now, were both petitions continued or just the 2304?
Both of them were continued.
Okay.
Was legal counsel here at the last meeting? I was not in attendance.
I don't believe so. No, okay.
No, right? Is that right?
No, they were not, no.
I think the gentleman that was here asked for 30 days to be able to prepare and consult with legal counsel.
So I just refreshed my memory. I don't think they were here at all. I don't think they were here at all because it was continued by right. So that's what I remember. They are here if you'd like to speak with them. I think they want to speak with you, so.
And I take absolutely no issue with continuing if they want.
I don't
If
have
they
any
want their legal
objection.
counsel here.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to continuance. Okay.
Any other
I'll
discussion?
follow
on it?
suit, I guess.
So
And that is what you guys would like, correct? Because it's been a week or so since we talked, so I just want to be sure nothing's changed since then. Okay.
So the continuance is to consult more with legal counsel or,
To have them
What?
present.
so they can have them here.
okay, are they out of state or is the council out of state or is your council out of state?
No, they're not. The first continuance, I heard you mention, we weren't here, and that was not for legal reasons. That was just to address some concerns, and we changed some products around that were in the staff report. After going through that, we realized that we did want to have counsel. There was a conflict with tonight, so we won't have an issue that's already on a schedule for the next hearing.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we continue VAR 2303 and VAR U 23-04 to the regularly scheduled April meeting.
We have a motion by Mrs. Ransberg. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Inman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ann Inman,
4?
Catherine Rainsberg,
4.
Marcy Tashler,
4.
Marcus Turner.
4.
Motion carries.
We will see you next month.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Moving on, the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to address the board at this time? With no one coming forward, we will close public comment. Next item is old business. We have VAR 23-02, Panda Donuts drive-through. Ian?
Okay, so we got VAR 2302, Panda Donuts drive-through. That's a request for approval of the variance of development standards to allow for a drive-through stacking spaces in the front yard within tier 1 of the 36 overlay. Let me fix it. Oh, that might help if I turn it on. And turn on my mic as well. It's located at 7810 East US Highway 36, Avon, Indiana, 46123. That is Lot 6 of Avon Crossing, Section 6. It's a 1.73 acre parcel. It's Zone C2, and as I said, it's in Tier 1 of the 36 overlay. This is the property in question here. I believe we have O'Reilly's, if I'm correct, to the west here, and Arby's, I believe, to the east there. Some history on it, very recent history. This appeal was heard by you all at the February 21st Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. You brought up some good points about the layout of the drive-through. You had concerns regarding traffic circulation, and you ultimately just chose to continue the appeal to allow the petitioner to go back and revise their plan to address your concerns and comments. Since that meeting, I met with the appellant and went over the revised drive-through with them. While we were supportive of the first revision of the layout, we do find that the second layout more effectively addresses the concerns of the board at the last month's meeting. As I said, it is the variance of development standards for stacking spaces in the front yard, and that is of Chapter 2.10K, which states that all components of a drive-through, including stacking spaces, must be located in the side or rear yards. It would reorient the existing drive-through from a counterclockwise pattern to a clockwise pattern. As we discussed before, I don't think Ann's here, so it's good that we revisit this. The counterclockwise pattern orientation of the drive-through resulted in the patron approaching the drive-through with their passenger side to the building, and that inhibited the business's ability to conduct their business in the existing drive-through facility that was there. It was formerly occupied by a dry cleaner, and that wasn't an issue for the dry cleaner that occupied that space previously because they were able to, I suppose, run out the clothes to the car and put it in there for them. It worked functionally for them. But for the donut shop, it would require the employees probably to leave the building, perhaps run around the car to service it, thus creating a risk to the driver or the employee. And that's where staff identifies their practical difficulty in the tenant's ability to utilize their legally established conforming drive-through that already exists there. We have reviewed the second revision of the development plan and found it to be sufficient to address pedestrian safety, vehicle safety, and other parking and loading standards. And we'll go through that together right now. So here we have revision 1, the layout that you saw in February here. One of the big points of contention that I remember is the cross-hatched area in the drive-through, right? So we've discussed the fact that the drivers that were heading in a counterclockwise direction here, heading east, in order to head back up north, they would have to actually cut through the line of the drive-through there. We found issue with that, felt that there wasn't sufficient circulation and traffic mitigating devices. I feel like that was a big one that we focused on there. So here is the revised plan that was provided to us. Basically, instead of having these 2 lanes here, this functions as a bypass lane, we converted this extra long bypass lane here into the lane heading from north or south to north. We also added when I first spoke with the appellant, this was a full curb. And that was to address those concerns you had about people crossing the drive-through, some sort of a barrier to stop them. I had reservations about there being a curve there. I saw cars running over that curb. So brought that up with the appellant, and their compromise was to put a rolling curb, something like a bit of a speed bump there. So a bit of a deterrent, but nothing that is a egregious hazard to a car or driver. So we still have a bypass lane here where people could exit. I suppose they could also turn left here as well. So those are the main changes that were made. This is a little hard to see, but this is the circulatory map here. It shows the directions, but it is really hard to see the arrows, but it basically shows you all the directions that cars can go, the paths that they are able to take. This is a speed bump, of course. I spoke with the appellant and asked, hey, is there an example of what a rolling curb might look like that I can show you all? I was struggling to find an actual rolling curb, but speed bump is essentially what they plan to put there. Here's a sign package as well, and the appellant's going to go through these with you in more detail. And ultimately, we do recommend approval of VAR 2302 Pan and Donuts drive-through, subject to the following conditions: that any changes to the provided plan be subject to review and approval by the zoning administrator. So that's all I have for you on this one. If you have any questions, happy to help.
Questions for Ian? Ian, I had one real quick. If we were to approve this, this goes before the Plan Commission?
It does not.
It does not.
The ordinance states that the addition of a drive-through lane triggers plan review. But our interpretation, speaking with Bill, our planning director, was that this isn't adding a drive-through lane, it's reorienting one. And we made that determination.
Any other questions for staff?
Yes, I have a question, and I didn't pick this up last time, but if I'm looking at this and I compared it to the old one, is the order station on the passenger side of the car?
Yes.
So people would be making their orders across from, okay? Is there a menu board?
Yeah, that's where the menu board would be located
Okay.
right here.
Anything else for staff? If not, we will hear from the representative from PANA.
Thank you. For the record, my name is David Gilman, representing Panda Donuts. Aaron Soak is the owner. He's also with me here tonight. My office address is 211 South Ritter Avenue, Suite H, Indianapolis, Indiana. I came by myself in February, and it wasn't too long that we were getting into a lot of discussions that staff has briefed you on. And we want to make sure that we were listening to the comments that were brought up by the board. And we do think we came up with a solution the best we can for something that is pre-existing. And we think our plan is a safe plan, and it's a responsible plan for allowing Panda Donuts to continue to operate with this drive-through. So obviously, when we brought this to you, as Ian mentioned, we did have an exit for the rest of the center to go in between cars that were waiting in the drive-through. There was no other way to exit for the existing tenants and their customers east of the property. And then it was mentioned that when we do come back, make sure we have signage that makes it as clear as possible where people are to be, what lanes they're to be in, what the purpose of that lane is, and that they have clear direction. So part of the proposal is to have a roll top type curb that would be painted with stripes, in addition to the roll top curb that will identify and separate the drive-through lane from the parking area. Right in this area here, we would have this. It would be either painted a solid white or striped white or something to make it very visible. In addition, these directional arrows would also be painted and embossed in the pavement, giving direction to the vehicles as they approach the drive-through or as they exit through the center. The traffic flow lane diagram that you see here demonstrates that we're able to have two-way access points at both entrances off of Crossing Drive, all the way around the building and exiting to the east, as well as maintaining a bypass lane for the drive-through without interfering any of the other parking spaces. So this is a sign program that Hutchinson Signs provided us. These are all DOT regulated signs as far as font, reflectivity, and size of the sign. I do have a diagram that I'm going to show you where these signs would be located. That we would have a Pana drive-through lane only, identifying that this is the lane you should be in if you're interested in the drive-through. A do not enter to make sure that there's no conflicting traffic movement. A right turn only exiting Arby's. A drive-through only would be probably at the entrance on the far north east corner. Exit only would be the new exit getting out to the east. And then a Pana lane drive-through identifying where the drive-through customers are. So right in this area, a Pana drive-through, do not enter, exit only. And then over here at Arby's, a right turn only. So we think we've gotten 5 key signs that are needed to make sure you're in the right lane, that you know what areas to exit and to enter, and that there's minimal, if minimizing any traffic conflict or any traffic movement conflict. And these signs will be part of the variance request. And with that, we hope we've answered the concerns that the board had. When PANA selected the site, they selected the site because it was in Avon, and right now they're off Thompson Road in Indianapolis. The building was existing with the drive-through. They did make contact with the planning staff and talking about the drive-through, and it was legal and conforming. So they selected the site. They started their remodeling on the interior tenant space. It was when they came in for the permit for the menu board that it became apparent that there may be a need for a variance for the stacking in the front space. But it wasn't anything that they just took a gamble on. It was just something they weren't aware of. One of the other questions that the board had for me at the last meeting is the volume and the time of wait. So and this is off of data from their Thompson Road site. Average wait for the customer is 2 to 3 minutes. They do about 100 to 150 cars per day during the week, and probably closer to 200 on the weekend. Their peak time is 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And during that time, based on that data, you would have between 34 and 60 cars in a given hour to come through the drive-through. It amounts to about 35 to 50% of the revenue in Thompson Road. And for those reasons I had mentioned last time, it's a critical component of why they selected the site, this building, this market. And they would hope that the board would understand their need for the drive-through, that they've done a reasonable job addressing the concerns about traffic safety. And they just have a drive-through in a building that they would like to be able to use. And we would be happy to answer questions that board members would have of me or my client. Thank you.
Mitchell, we held the public hearing last time. I'm assuming we don't need to reopen it.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns, discussion, all the above.
I have some questions, and you may have said this last time, and my apologies if I didn't make a note. What are the hours of operation?
Will you introduce your name and address for the record, Aaron?
Can you hear me?
My name is Aaron Silk. For the hour operation of 5 a.m. to 6 p.m.
So 5 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
You'll be closing at 6 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
every day?
Every day.
Okay. So signage, how high, where are they posted? Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yes, I can. What we'll do is, in general, we're going to meet DOT standards. So the height would be about 4.5 feet at eye level as you're sitting in a vehicle.
So they're on a freestanding pole,
Yes.
or are you posting,
It'll
or?
be freestanding.
Okay,
Okay. Let me get a little.
okay.
Yeah, because I put this up here because that question I'm not come up. So right here, coming in, right there through the drive-through,
Mm-hmm,
would be in a drive-through lane only.
mm-hmm,
Opposite that, where they're exiting, would be a do not enter.
Hmm.
Right turn only would be posted right here as RVs people come out. Right turn only to get in the flow of traffic. We don't want them cutting across the parking lot against traffic.
right.
Hannah drive-through lane, I would post that on that raised curb. So that at the very end of it, so they know that that curb, striped curb is actually the Hannah drive-through dedicated lane. And then exit only would be right here, so that everybody coming through this way would know that that's an exit only going in.
Okay. So my next question then is illumination. Are these, Indiana, we get dark at crazy times and in the morning and when we change. So you may run into some point during the morning from 5 a.m. or 6 p.m. where it's dark. So how are these illuminated or reflective or?
They're not illuminated. If you read under each one of these signs,
Okay.
the reflectivity and the font, the size of the lettering, type of the lettering, and the reflectivity are what DOT would require on any other highway signs.
So they could be seen in the headlights of a
See,
vehicle.
headlights,
Is that
yes.
what you're saying?
They would reflect that, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, all of them are, and that was something that I think you may have made that point to me that you wanted to make sure that they were visible in the evenings or dusk to dawn because of the hours. And we wanted to make sure that we hired a professional sign company to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
The other thing about that, the hours, if the impact of stacking to the facing 36 is the headlights, the distraction, typically they're going to be closed at 5 or 6 anyway. So it's not an evening hour drive-through glare that might be distracting to the motoring public on 36.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
I just want to clarify when I don't necessarily agree with your characterization of the ingress and egress. You said 2 points on either side of ingress and egress. But if you look at that west side, if the stacking lane is full, you can only exit from the west. You can't enter. You would be caught in the drive-through lane. And the other thing is okay, I guess that's okay. The other thing is when you were here last time, I expressed some concern and actually do some homework regarding your practical difficulty for this case. You know, it's a retail space today, and with or without a drive-through, it's still a functioning retail space. And I don't see the practical difficulty. This is not a special exception. This is not about right to a drive-through. So I think we've got some extra work to do with regards to making determinations about safety. But the other thing is, you know, they're asking for a variance from the standards that disallow the stacking spaces to be up front in tier 1. And that was, it was a very deliberate thing that was done for aesthetic purposes, for property value type purposes. So again, I'm still not convinced there's a practical difficulty here.
Now, this building was built in '05. The overlay that prohibits the stacking, what year did that come into play?
2007.
Okay. And the only reason I bring that to our attention is we talked about this with staff. It's legally established use, drive-through. It's non-conforming. And that stacking probably wasn't given consideration when the drive-through was approved by the Plan Commission. There is another thing, if this helps, and I'm not sure, but when I look at practical difficulty, if something is legally established and non-conforming, the best that it can be expected is you have a solution that is safe and reasonable to overcome that non-conformity. The only other solution is to drive through and maybe stack in front of the parking stalls, which obviously is not a good solution, or to use it and try to have a drive-through that functions where people and customers and employees have to get out of the vehicle or come out of the shop to do business. But again, the client selected this building because of the drive-through, thinking that it was approved and usable. And then the subsequent ordinance made implications that made it not usable in this manner. And that's our basis for the biggest part of our practical difficulty. We can, if this would make a difference, there is that grass area right here that some shrubs could be planted to block the visibility or to lighten the visibility of the stacking. A row of 3 or 4 foot hedgerow of shrubs, year-round evergreens. So that's something that we would take into consideration as an additional consideration for your support.
I actually like the accommodation, and I want to say thank you to the petitioner for going back to the drawing board and trying to find something that addressed our concerns. I think we all felt like that little quasi four-way stop situation in the middle of a drive-through lane was just asking for accidents and all kinds of problems. So I appreciate this. I do see it as a practical difficulty when you're talking about the impact on the store sales. And I know that there's at what point does that become cost cannot be the only thing to consider, but we're also talking about the functioning of a business. So I'm not sure where this is where we get into legal gum chewing here, but I think it's considering that this is a pre-existing, it's not conforming, but it is pre-existing. And to me, this is a good solution for this space without having to completely tear out the whole thing and reconstruct.
I'm going to completely disagree with you about the business aspect of this. And we don't write our ordinances to conform to business plans or maximizing profit. We do that for the, we try to meet the terms of the ordinance. They were established with a reason. The town's put in a lot of effort to get there. However, I think you did give a good explanation of the legal non-conforming use, the conflict with the overlay that arose, and certainly to continue to use that. And Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, that's their right to have a drive-through had never expired, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
As long as the drive-through
So with that, really, they could continue to use the drive-through as designed, which I don't think is good for anybody. So I think you've convinced me that there is a practical difficulty there. I'm not wild about the design, but it's a lot better than what it was.
We think, believe it or not, there are times you go back, you're like, this is a lot better.
And I think,
And we all did, me, the engineer, my client, we all said, this makes a ton more sense.
and to the extent that you brought it up, so I'm going to ask you, are you willing to make the commitment to plant 4-foot-high shrubs?
You see where I'm talking about, Aaron? So
Are you, let me rephrase that. Put some shrubs that will block the lights that staff will have approval over.
yeah, so right here in this grass area at the edge of the parking lot, to sort of screen the vehicles that are in the drive-through, plant some shrubs that get about this high.
Okay.
And that will help soften that. So when people drive by, they see the shrubs behind the shrubs on the cars in the drive-through. And if I said shrubs, but if somebody thinks maybe a decorative type opaque fence,
I think if we just classified it as a landscaping plan to be approved by staff with the intent of screening the headlight effect.
you're good with that too? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you guys are willing to?
Yes, we
Okay.
would. We'll make that as one of our conditions. So it'd be the site plan, the signage plan, and the landscape plan is subject to admin approval by the staff.
Ian,
I can live with that.
how much of that green space on the perimeter of the property, because this is a multi-tenant building, correct?
Correct.
So how much of this green space would Panda Donuts be responsible? So I'm thinking, and I'm not trying to create more problems here, but as people are coming around that curve of the drive-through, those headlights are going to be hitting people who are driving east on Rockville Road. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So on the western edge of that property, is there landscaping there now?
I don't believe so, no.
And would that be the responsibility, or would that be something that either or both tenants would be responsible for? How does that work?
I believe it would probably depend on their mutual property agreement and contract.
Okay.
So I don't
Because we're
know.
asking them to put landscaping on the southeast edge of that property. So I guess in order to provide a visual, create a visual blocking of the headlights. But we also have those headlights are going to be, as they come around that curve, are going to be continuing past that space, so.
The only other thing is there will be a lot of cars parked in that area and that would hopefully block some of those headlights facing, going in that direction.
Right.
Cars out front, but you know, we could talk to Cranfield Development. They've obviously done a lot of development here in Avon. It's their property. We're just a tenant. But we could talk to them about that. You know, maybe you match 2 half moons on either side so it's more even, you know, so it doesn't look like it was put there for the drive-through. It was maybe something added to both sides that make it match. You see what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion?
I just have one more question, and I might have missed this, so excuse me. But, so the ordering process, what did you say? How does that affect the passenger side versus the driver's side? That confused me a little
Well,
bit,
yeah.
because there was a lot going on, so.
The menu board could be, you know, you could roll down your window, there's a speaker, you could have your speaker
Right.
project. Ordering through the driver's side isn't as difficult as trying to receive goods.
So the receiving on the passenger side?
No.
No.
They'll be ordering passenger
So what
side,
did you say was
receiving.
going on over here on the passenger side? Or did you not say that? Okay,
There'll be obviously the order from the passenger,
okay,
drive around, pick up from the driver.
okay, all right. That's why I needed clarity.
It's not a perfect solution.
No, I
But
understand.
it's, I think it's one that has been given some thought, and I think at the end of the day, it'll be safe.
Right.
Other discussion?
I just appreciate all the thought that you put into this and willing to work with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
With safety, a big consideration.
Exactly.
Thank you. Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I'll read it.
Okay.
I move that we approve variance 23-02, Panda Donuts drive-through, a variance of development standards to allow for drive-through stacking spaces in a front yard within Tier 1 of US Highway 36 overlay zoning district, since it has satisfied all the requirements for special exceptions under state law and subject to the approved facts of findings. And it's going to be subject to the condition that a landscaping plan would need to be approved by the staff.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mrs. Inman, a second by Mrs. Ransberg. Any discussion?
For the record, can I have you repeat the condition into the microphone since it wasn't on, just for a minute's sake? And
It's subject to the condition that the landscaping plan must be approved by the staff.
thank you, Ann.
Ready to vote?
Discussion? We're ready for a vote?
Ann Inman,
4?
Catherine Ransberg,
4.
Marcy Tashner.
4.
Marcus Turner.
4.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we appreciate you working with us on that. Moving on to new business, we have VAR 23-07. Ian?
VAR 2307, that is total wine sign area. This is request for approval of a variance of development standards to allow for a wall sign which exceeds the maximum sign area allowed by the Unified Development Ordinance. The location is 10350 East US Highway 36. That's lot 14 of Shiloh Crossing. It's an 11.06 acre property. It's zoned C2 and it's located within Tier 3 of the Highway 36 overlay zoning district. This is the property in question here. It includes Best Buy, Michael's, and Bed Bath & Beyond, which occupied the tenant space, the subject tenant space before, but we'll get into that. It was developed the commercial strip was developed in 2001 under SPRP 0101 and SPRF 0102, Shiloh Crossing, Lot 14. As I said, Bed Bath and Beyond. I always confuse those two, man. Always. Bed Bath & Beyond recently vacated this tenant space, and a building permit for a Total Wine and More remodel has been approved. It's in the process. This is a request for approval of variance of development standards to allow for a wall sign that exceeds the maximum sign area allowed by the UDO. The appellant proposes a 224 square foot wall sign, whereas 207 square feet is the maximum allowed. Chapter 6.172 allows 1.5 square feet of sign area for each linear foot of building face in this case. The tenant has a facade width of 138 linear feet, so that comes out to 207 times 138 times 1.5 is 207. Staff isn't convinced that there's a clear and convincing practical difficulty associated with this request. This here is the sign, and we're going to touch on something real quick. As you can see, it says 299.9 square feet here. That is the area of the rectangle that encompasses the entire sign here. And it's that area that led us to get this variance today. It was almost 300 feet. So there's a difference of almost 100 square feet.
Could you do that again? Could you outline that again?
Sure. Yep. 299.90 square feet is the area of the rectangle that encompasses the entire sign.
Okay.
And that's how the sign was reviewed during the permitting process. And that's what led us to this variance today. There is a section in the ordinance that tells us how we calculate sign area. And it basically states that it can be any combination, any rectangle, circle, triangle, or combination thereof that encompasses the area of the sign, right? So the sign was re-reviewed by our building commissioner, and he reviewed it just by chance. He thought it hadn't been reviewed. And he reviewed it with a more liberal interpretation of that sign area computation standards. And he found, the area of the words and cut out the dead space basically in between the letters, which is a mechanism of the ordinance. It was just interpreted differently than I had done it. That ultimately still came out to 224, which is still above the maximum allowed by ordinance, but it's about a 17-foot difference. So I just wanted to point that out because my staff report says 224 and this says 299. I had a conversation with the petitioner about this, but I just wanted to bring that up to you. Ultimately, we do recommend denial of variance 2307 total wine sign area. I'm available for questions.
Okay, Ian, so how are we interpreting the variance? How
200.
have we traditionally done it? How are we going to continue to do it?
224 is the official determination, and that's how we will be doing it in the future.
And that's the same way we've done everything, and that's the same?
Yes,
Everyone who's come in before, for example, the CVS thing,
Mhm.
we computed that the same way?
yes. So
Okay,
our building commissioner who's been here since the town incorporation, that's how he's always done it. We were in another transitional period. Daniel used to do signs. When Daniel left, I began doing signs. And it's a common happenstance in planning and in permit review, plan review, is to have slight different interpretations. Of course, the goal is to always be as consistent as possible, but these things happen. Is now Justin is doing sign permits now since he has taken Daniel's role. So we will be training him the same way. But that's a little backstory on how this all came to be.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions for staff? We're right here from petitioner.
Good evening. My name is Gary Potts. My address is 58171 Dragonfly Court in Osceola, Indiana. I am the owner of Professional Permits. I am representing the property owners Shiloh Venture LLC and Total Wine, who is the tenant proposed for the space. In evident or in interest to keep it brief, I believe everything in the packet has been shared with you. We don't have any problem with staff report. The only issue, obviously, that we take is item number 3, which regarding the practical difficulty. The sign package there that says 299.9, the total wine, the capital T is 4 foot 6 inches, which is 54 inches. The industry standard for visibility for signs is you get 1 inch equals 10 feet away for visibility. So a 54-inch sign is visible from 540 feet. The next step down in the sign package for Total Wine is 42 inches. So it's a 3 foot 6 tall capital T. That would equate to 420 feet of visibility. I do have some very crude renderings that I put together this afternoon. Admittedly, I am not an engineer. I am not an architect. I do not use Adobe very well. So I can circulate these from one end to the other if you want to take a look, and we can go over them.
Oh, okay.
For those that haven't seen it yet, basically what it is I took from the facade of the building with Total Wine, I drew a line from the facade all the way out to the 420 feet, and then also for the 540 feet. Our practical difficulty is this is an 11-acre property, and it sits over 1,000 feet away from US 36, and also some of the other intersections that are closer to the entrance. In order for these signs to be safe and effective, they need to be visible at the proper distance in order to be seen. If we have a code compliant sign package, which is the 42-inch tall letter, we don't get there on some of those intersections. Even on the 54-inch, we're running out of facade space, so you can't make it much taller and have it fit on there, but our request is to make it as visible as possible, obviously, to keep that one for advertising, but mainly for visibility, because that is a busy intersection along 36, and then even when you get onto the side streets there. So we would like that request to be, that is our practical difficulty. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Right now, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up to speak? And with no one wanting to speak, we'll close the public hearing. We are open for discussion.
So if I recall correctly, and by the way, it's killing me that Bed Bath & Beyond has vacated that space. I've gone into a period of mourning, just FYI. So, which is probably, so it's probably good that there's an alcohol-based business wanting to go there. Yeah. So isn't there, if I recall, isn't there I don't know what the proper term is, but a large pedestal sign with a list of all the businesses?
Pylon sign.
I'm sorry?
Pylon sign.
Thank you. A pylon sign right there on 36 that lists all the businesses.
There's one located along 36. There's also one kind of behind the buildings by the movie theater next to Portillo's that lists those. Even taking those into consideration, once you get on, you're like, oh, hey, there's Total Wine. You're going to turn in there. You're still 700 to 800 feet away from that building. So you don't have the necessary visibility in order to navigate the parking.
But there are restaurants and other buildings in between 36 and the parking lot in front of the Office Depot and the what else is there? Michael's, I think, is there. And Best
Yes.
Buy. Yeah, so you can't see it anyway.
You can.
I mean,
You can see because I don't have it with me, but the Google Street View, You can see the Bed Bath & Beyond sign that's there now from the intersection of where you would turn left coming east on 36, the left-hand turn. You can see the sign, but even on Google, if you don't know it's Bed Bath & Beyond, it's not visible. I mean, you can't read it. The font size is too small. So that is our practical difficulty, is that while you can see that it's there, the number of traffic accidents that are inside shopping, parking garages and parking lots is astronomical in the United States. So it's necessary for that business to be, for the motorist to go, okay, there's Total Wine, and that's where we're going to park.
So is that picture on the bottom, is that a scale rendering of what you would like it to look like?
That is a scaled rendering, yes.
So if we approve this, that is the size of the signage on the front of the building?
Yes, and I do have the next step down, which I can circulate those as well. This is the code compliant package.
Thank you. Thank you.
So with a national corporation, you have standard signs, standard size signs. So when you have Total Wine, that's a national brand, they have a 54-inch letter set, they have a 42-inch letter set, they have a 28-inch letter set, per se, kind of like CVS, which is, it's funny you brought CVS, I was here for that petition. But they have their standard branding, so even though we are 17 square feet over, there isn't a sign that goes down by 17 square feet to make it code compliant. I don't know what that size would equate to, somewhere between 54 and 42 inches. That doesn't exist currently in their brand family.
I appreciate they'd like something bigger, but at the end of the day, you get your sign footage, you know, based on the formula provided in the ordinance, and everybody gets that to the extent that, and you can use that in any way you want. To the extent that you feel that that sign is not readable, you can take out the spirits, beer, and more. You can take out the grapes and make the Total Wine bigger and accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Well, that is their trademark. That's then you're going away from their trademarks brand. If you take.
We're not here to conform to people's business plans. We're here to you know, implement the town has set standards and everybody adheres to those unless they come in and get a variance.
I mean, I agree that the larger one aesthetically looks more balanced within that space than the smaller one. I'm not sure that being able to see it from 36, considering all the other obstructions, I never had any trouble finding Bed Bath & Beyond. That I kind of have a homing pigeon instinct when it comes to those stores anyway. So I do have a question. So when we're talking about the percentage of the space that can be devoted to the sign, are we talking about, we're looking at a bumped out space, are we talking about within the borders or within the exterior of that bumped out space?
Our ordinance doesn't regulate wall sign area as a percentage of the facade. It strictly does it as a ratio of the linear frontage.
So side to side,
Yes.
okay. And is it from the interior of those decorative borders or to the outside
I
edge?
believe it's on your plans. As you see,
It's on
138
the
feet.
smaller package, the building width.
Yeah, I thought.
That
I
has
saw it
the
somewhere.
the code compliant sign. It's not called out on this one here.
Yeah, there you go, 138.
Oh, it's this whole thing? Okay. I misunderstood that completely.
And the the visibility is not just from 36, it's also from that intersection of Shiloh Drive and that intersection, because that's still outside of the visibility realm, which I drew on that paper. So yes, we would ideally like it to be visible from 36 because that's the address that the building is addressed to. But even once you get on there, we realized that the multi-tenant signs are going to provide some sort of brand identification for Total Wine, which is why they're out there at the road.
So if we're looking at the thing that you passed out,
Yes,
142 feet, or 42 feet, I guess. 142.
that's 42, that's the arc for a 42-inch sign.
For a 42-inch sign. And that's what you're requesting, is the 42-inch sign?
42 inches is the code compliant one. We're requesting the outside, which is 54 inches.
Okay, so you said that you're also wanting to have visibility from Shiloh Drive, but the 42-inch sign, based on this, granted, I know you're not an architect, neither am I, but that does meet that.
Can I show you something? Can I approach?
Sure.
So this is what, this intersection here is not visible.
Okay.
I mean, they
Is there something, do we have something like this that he can put up on there?
I don't.
Okay.
Catherine, are you finished with your thoughts? May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. How many locations, how many Total Wine stores? throughout the-
Nationwide?
Yes, sir.
I think there are around 300.
Okay. What I read just now said 249, so you're not too far off, unless 50 new ones went up in the last month.
They're
I think
doing,
it said as of end of February.
I have a meeting in Cherry Hill, New Jersey next week, and I have one in Glendale, California in a couple weeks. So they're just adding them like
And this
crazy.
is solely owned by one family or one?
The Total Wine, yes, it's owned by, I believe they're brothers.
Okay, yep. So my question, and I'm always thinking about solutions to problems.
Sure.
And so I'm looking at some orientations of the logo, and they're not all oriented like that. So there's some, I'm seeing some other ways that you could put your sign together and meet our requirements here in the town of Avon and still get what you need up there, based on what I'm seeing here. So I don't know how those are used, if they're only used on collateral or
They
if they're
could
used
be,
on
and they could
billboards
also be an
only.
old branding. I mean, it
Okay.
could be not the latest.
So I'm thinking that it's possible that that could be a solution here. I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're
What I'm
talking
saying,
about. Yeah.
that you take the Total Wine, Spirits, Beer and More, if what I'm seeing is true, some of these logos, and I can't project that up there, but some are, it's just Total with the grapes and wine and more. Total grapes, wine and more stacked.
Yes.
Total wine and more black and white, Total Wine and More. A lot of these don't have the spirits.
Spirits
beer. Yes,
beer
sir.
is new.
And then Total Wine and More.
So it used to be Total
so,
Wine and More, but now they
some
added the
different
spirits and beer.
colors, Total Wine, exactly. So, and I'm seeing some trademark.
I would venture away from trying to redesign the sign for them. They have their trademarks, their limitations. Like the appellant said, that it might be older signs, something, who knows? It's the appellant's burden of proof to show that the sign that they presented before you is worthy of a variance or not. So I would take what the appellant gave you, and again, it's not the BZA's role to redesign projects or redesign signs.
Got it.
Like
Thank you.
CVS,
But,
like the CVS one.
well, that's kind of what happened in there a little bit, so, okay. Just trying to help.
Any other discussion? I'll just reiterate, I don't think there's a practical difficulty here.
I don't see the practical difficulty. I mean, from an aesthetic point of view, I definitely agree that the larger sign looks better. It's only 17 feet, but these are the ordinances I don't think people are looking for Total Wine are going to have trouble finding Total Wine. I don't think 17 feet is going to make a difference. If we had an ability to waive because it just looks better, I would say let's do it, but we don't have that ability.
Any other discussion? If there's none, we'll entertain a motion.
I move that we deny variance 23-07, total wine sign area, a variance of development standards to allow for a wall sign which exceeds the maximum sign area allowed by the Unified Development Ordinance, since it has not satisfied all the requirements for special exceptions under state law and subject to the approved findings of fact.
Motion by Mrs. Inman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Ransberg. Any discussion? Ready for a vote?
Ann Inman,
Or
Catherine Rainsberg,
4.
Marcy Tashler,
Against,
Marcus Turner.
4.
Thank you.
No other business at this point. Ian?
I've got some other business I'll add. I just wanted to introduce Justin McBride. I know I've referenced him since the meeting started. This is Justin. You said you started about 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, minus my COVID.
It's filling our code enforcement role at the moment. We'll transition into GIS as he gets some training.
Yes.
But yeah, anything you want to say?
Hello, greetings.
So
The crash course.
he'll be helping us in our future BZA meetings. So.
I didn't realize he was a GIS guy. Super stoked.
Well, not yet. Daniel was a GIS guy, so he's got some big.
He's got some training to
he's
do,
got
but
some
that's
big
fine.
shoes to fill.
who's
But,
training you, Justin?
Everyone.
Everyone?
yeah, looking to get him some formal training, send him to classes, teach him GIS because
Awesome.
very
Do the
valuable.
basics.
I don't usually see people getting excited about GIS, but
I used to be a GIS guy, so I'm all about it. Anything else?
Catherine, I got something for you to sign, so please don't leave.
okay.
And then let's be sure we sign our findings before we leave. And that's all I got.
Very good. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.